Hello, everybody. I guess I'm going to try without my glasses because I don't know that I need to see, and I can certainly see the cards well enough. Hello, this is Astrologer Dawn here. If you are interested in finding out more about my Tarot 101 webinar series that starts on November the 14th, 2017, please check out astrologerdawn.com. If you're interested in a reading or a consultation, you can, or a coaching, you can also find more information at astrologerdawn.com. So today, I wanted to talk about timing. I'm going to shuffle the cards. So, timing is a huge thing with people, usually when they ask me questions. So, if you're asking yourself or somebody else is asking you, well, how long is that going to take? Or when's that going to happen? Or how soon will? You've really got to determine how timing is going to show up for you. And it's different with different people. So, for example, a lot of times with me, if somebody will ask me a question, let's just say it's a house question, how soon will my house sell? What I usually do is I lay out a bunch of cards, and just until I get one that speaks to selling a house, that speaks to something, something like selling a house or something. And then whatever that number is, so let's just say I laid out 5 cards, and the 5th one showed something like the Ace of Pentacles, which is new home, new job, new opportunity. So I would then probably say they're either going to sell the house in 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years. It's usually not 5 years, but 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, if I come up with 5 cards. Sometimes it's intuitive. Sometimes it's more about intuition rather than it being about the card. Sometimes it can just be about intuition and that whole, it just feels like it's going to happen in 3 months, that kind of thing. So, you shuffle the cards the same way. Nothing changes in terms of shuffling the cards. That stays the same. It just determines what cards that you see are the ones that you would indicate timing is going to show up for you. So let me just have a look here. So timing cards, again, it depends on what the subject is. If you're asking about a house, if you're asking about, getting a job, if you're asking about getting engaged, a lot of times this stuff will come up with, well, how long before that happens? So timing, and when you're asking, you got to remember when you're doing it for yourself, there's a lot of investment that you have for the answer to be what it is you want. Example, let's say you're selling a house and you've already bought another one. Obviously, the desire to sell the other one before you actually move into the new one is going to be overwhelming. So you're going to want to see, it's going to sell next week or it's going to sell tomorrow. You're going to want to see that. So sometimes timing is not good to do for yourself unless you can really step back and let go of the expectations. Because a lot of times we have, we'll see something that might say, 6 months. And we're like, I don't want it to be 6 months. I want it to be now, or I want it to be tomorrow, or, we have a horrible time with patience, most of us. So in terms of the timing, sometimes it's a good idea to ask somebody else to pull a card for you in terms of timing. Shuffle your deck, have your husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, kids, and pull out a card, and then look at it in terms of, you can look at it in terms of, 1 through 10. So, the cards go ace through 10. So you could use that as how you figure out your timing, whenever it comes ace through 10. So it's 1 to 10 days, 1 to 10 weeks, 1 to 10 months, 1 to 10 weeks. You could use that. Or you could use what I tend to use, which is that, hey Amika, which is that I lay out cards until I get a card that would indicate yes to whatever the subject is that I'm talking about, or whatever the question is. Because the question is usually, first of all, something like, will I sell my house? And then secondly, it's when will it sell? So, and you don't want to mix questions up together, especially when it comes to timing. You want to be very specific, when will my house that I currently live in sell? Well, that's not a good question because that's very open-ended. So you really need to ask questions such as, will my house sell within the next 3 months? Or will somebody sign a contract for my house in the next 3 months? So, here's another problem. So let's just say you get a yes, that somebody is going to sign a contract within the next 3 months. And that contract falls through. That still doesn't tell you when the house is going to sell. Or I've had actually somebody come to me, and I'm using this house thing because I've had a lot of this lately. I had somebody come to me that said they had a contract on the house. And they wanted to make sure that it was closing by the end of the month. Like, I was like, I don't see you selling this for like at least another 6 months. Oh, no, we have a contract. Everything's going. I'm like, okay, well, maybe, I don't know. I just agree with people when they argue about what I say. So I guess I don't know that. And then that person called me back. Turned out the contract fell through, and it did take them 6 months. I didn't hear for another year, but it did take 6 months, which is what I originally said, because that first contract fell through, and so they had to get another buyer. So you've got to be careful when you're asking about the timing of the question. So in that case, you might say, given that I have a contract on my house, will this close within the next 2 weeks, month, whatever it is? And then you pull the card. And depending upon what it is, like, this is just the next card off the deck. So, for example, in this particular case, I pulled the stagnation card. So if you got this card and you were asking me about a house selling, I'd say, ooh, something's not going right there. Or there's going to be a problem. Or do you have a problem with your roof? Or what about termites? Or, there's a lot of different things that could be going on that will change the timing. Oh, and the other thing is, there's different, in terms of timing, there's things that you can do to change things. Is that to do with timing though? Yes and no. So for example, somebody asks me, will I get pregnant in the next 3 months? And I say yes. And they call me 2 years later and say, I never did have any children. Well, did you change what you were doing? Oh, yeah. We went to very heavy contraceptive. We didn't want children. And it's like, well, you can change it. The thing with the cards, it's sort of different than with astrology. With astrology, the planets are where they're at, and they, psychologically mean what they mean. And so, to me, that's much harder in terms of changing things. But with the cards, especially when it comes to things like pregnancy, if you don't want to get pregnant, and I say to you, wow, looks like you got a pregnancy here, you can change that. You'll know the biggest thing that you can do to change that, but failing that, using contraception can help. But again, timing. The other thing about timing is people want what they want when they think that they want it, but it may not be a need. The universe may give you something else in between or before, or it will give you something to change that. Or maybe you wanting to sell the house in 3 months is not supposed to be what's going to happen, because your next door neighbor's going to die, and you're the one that's going to, or your next door neighbor's going to look like she's dying. You're the one that's going to find her in distress and get her to the hospital in time and save her. Had you sold the house, she wouldn't have been there. So, you've really got to think about that kind of stuff as well. Just because of what you want, doesn't mean that's what you need. You may need something else to happen before you get what it is that you want. So you've really got to be clear about what it is that you want. Are you clear about what you want? Is it really taking you in the direction that you want to go? Because then a lot of times the timing will be boom, boom, boom. Things will show up exactly the way that they're supposed to. And it also doesn't mean that if you have to put more effort and energy into getting things done, that it's not supposed to happen. Timing takes exactly what it's supposed to, because there are other things that we usually have to experience along the way. We don't know what those things are. We might go at a house, and using the house again, we go to see a house and we go, oh gosh, this is definitely the one. And then as we pull out of the driveway, we hadn't seen this before, but we notice that there's lots of trash, and the house either side is sort of falling down. Intuitively, you might go, ooh, yeah, maybe the timing's right to buy a house, but the timing's not right to buy this house. This is not in the correct place for us. And again, you have to be very careful when you're doing it for yourself, because you are going to want things in a certain time. So I always find it's best to do, when you do timing things, to do it, to have somebody else do it for you. Because those timing things can change. Dawn, did you have a question today? I don't think I got to you yesterday. So I was wondering if you had a question today that I could pull 3 cards for and give you an answer. If you do, please write something in the comment section. And then as soon as I see it, I can answer the questions. No, I am not staying on long today. In the middle of doing a ton of different things. And thanks for asking, just listening intently. Thank you so much. Thank you, I really appreciate that. So timing was today's, the other thing sometimes in terms of timing, something else I forgot. So let's say you ask a question about timing and you get something like the Devil card. You have to really go back to what it is you're asking the timing of, and you might realize that the thing that you want to stop something else happening, or you want to slow something down, or you want, but it's not related to that thing, and you want it more than you want the thing you're asking the question about. So you've got to be very careful. You've got to be very careful. And again, like when you get something like the Devil card in terms of timing, it's like, do you really want this? Do you need this? Are you really following your direction? Are you following your passion? Or are you just, this is a Band-Aid. This is a Band-Aid. This is going to solve this for a few minutes and then it's all going to be over. So, so be careful when you're interpreting timing. It's much easier to ask questions that have nothing to do with timing, because timing is a human thing. It is not a universe thing. It is not a universal thing. Timing is something that we as humans have created. So when we say things like, will I get a new job in a month? Well, I don't know. Yeah, we can say yes or no. However, what if that's not the correct job for you? So you're not going to get it and something else is going to come up. So if you're asking about the timing of one specific thing, sometimes you can't tell because that's not actually going to happen. Something else is going to come along and take you in a different direction. So when it comes to timing, you've got to be absolutely clear. You're doing something, that's exactly the way it is. You know that you're moving forward in a certain direction, and now you're just looking for a little sort of window so that you can get together all the other things that you need to get together. So a good example would be when I went to live in England, back when I was 20. I mean, obviously I'm from England, but I've been living in America since I was 21. But I was going back to England to live with my best friend for a while, and somebody had done a reading for me and told me, and this was September. So she told me, this Russian woman, very nice cards, they were square, I've never seen them before. She said to me, oh wow, you're going to England. And I said, no, I just came back. She said, no, you're going back to England. And I'm like, well, how quickly could that can't be right. You must be wrong. My friend's coming from England. She goes, yeah, that too. You're going back to England. I'm like, why would I want to go back to England? And she's like, and it's within a year. And so this is September. I guess this is September. And I'd come back from England. I'd been at my best friend's wedding in England. And so I'd come back. I had no reason to think I was going back to England. So I kept thinking, oh, she's wrong. But she did also offer me the opportunity to take some things with me. She did also suggest that I would meet somebody there and marry them. Therefore, I needed my birth certificate. If I was divorced, I needed my divorce papers. And I actually took all those things with me to England. So I thought, well, what if she's right about? Well, I took all those things to England because at the point that I knew I was going back to England, it made sense to take that. But before that, it's like, what? Why? Why would I be going back to England? It's not like even if anybody... Yeah, you're right, Dawn. It sounds like maybe asking about timing isn't the best thing to ask. It really isn't. It really isn't. Thank you for bringing that up, Dawn. I mean, people ask me, but it's one I really don't like. Because there are so many other factors that can go on in between. There's so many things that you could do different. If I say you're going to meet somebody in 3 months and you don't go outside your house, the only person you're going to meet is the UPS man, and the UPS man is usually a woman. So unless you're gay, that's not going to work for you. So timing is not really a good thing to ask about, just about the actual events. So this woman said, excuse me, this reader said, it's within a year. Okay, didn't believe her. Just let it go. What on earth? 2 months later, December the 18th, I get a phone call from a very close friend of mine in England. And the wedding that I'd been in July, my best friend's wedding, I've known since I was 11 years old, her husband was killed 5 months after they were married. And she came in the March. So I had the reading in the September. She said, I'm going to England within a year. Nowhere am I going to England. Best friend's husband dies 5 months after marriage in December, but she doesn't want me to come home. There's too many people. The newspapers are involved. There's all to do with the military. There's a huge bunch of problems. So she doesn't want me to come because she's got to deal with too much, but she will come to me once it's all over. So in the March, she comes to me. When she goes back home at the end of March, I'm just like, this is ridiculous. I'm divorced. I live in an apartment. I work for the Arizona Theatre Company at the time. I can work in England. I have health insurance in England. I can drive in England. There's nothing to really stop me going to England. So I call a friend of mine and say to her, this is what I really want to do. And she actually completely supported me. This wonderful woman completely supported me in going to England. So here's the timing thing from the woman in September, the year before, who told me you're going to England within a year. So that was September. And I'm on a plane June the 11th, 1994, which happens to be the day that Nicole Brown Simpson was murdered, and Ron Goldman, were murdered. But it would have been my wedding anniversary to my first husband, and I always think it's important to pick dates, regardless of what the dates mean. You know, I mean, I was divorced from Chris, but okay, there was no animosity when we divorced. So I picked June the 11th to go to England. So that was well within the year. You know, she said within a year. So sometimes I feel like saying that within a year, but when people are asking me about selling houses, it's usually pretty quickly. But it was kind of interesting, and everything that woman said happened actually. By the way, she said to me, you know, take your divorce papers, take your take your birth certificate. Oh, I could have got another one. It was easy, because you're going to get married. And sure enough, and she told me I was going to marry a foreigner, which she thought I was British, where I'm an American citizen. So I assumed I'd meet a British guy, which I didn't want to do because I'd already been married to one of those. But actually, she thought I was British and I met an American. So, you know, it was foreign to her. She was Russian, by the way. So I did everything she said. I took my my divorce papers from my first husband, took my birth certificate. I met Steve 3 weeks after I was there. 2 months later, we were engaged. 2 months later, we were married. So I needed all those documents, you know? So timing can be important. But we can also dismiss it. We can also really dismiss it. You know, when she said, you're going back to England, I thought, she's mistaken. She must be thinking about the fact that I've already just come from there. You know, I don't give any readers any credit, do I? So, no, she was correct. She was absolutely correct. And not only in the timing in terms of within the year, but also the fact that, you know, that all those other things were going to happen as well. And sometimes people will say that to me, you know, they'll call me a couple of years later and they'll say, wow, when you said to me, you know, my husband was having an affair, or that I was going to leave him, I was going to meet somebody else, I thought there's no way this woman knows what she's talking about. And then a few years later, oh yeah, I met this incredible guy. He came back from somebody I'd been to school with. I was never happy with my husband. I divorced him. I dated some other people. And then I started dating this guy. And we just got married. It's like that kind of stuff happens quite a lot. Again, timing. Timing's up to you. Whether you stay in something, get out of something. So timing, as Dawn said on our call today, not me, Dawn who happens to be watching this, says that maybe asking about timing isn't the best thing to ask. Well, I guess if you run out of things to ask, it is. However, no, it's not a good thing to ask. And to me, sometimes when you ask timing questions, there's a desperation that you want that to happen. You've really decided, like, you want that to happen. Good afternoon, Virginia. You really, really want that to happen. And whether you want it to happen or you need it to happen is going to be up to the universe, not up to you. You know, you're really going to need to make sure that you're going in the direction that the universe wants you to. Because it's not always. You know, if you think about the number of jobs you might have been talked out or turned down from, or you didn't go interview. Well, mainly the ones you did go interview for. The number of jobs you've been for an interview for, or people that you dated, and you wanted it to be. You wanted it to be the one. You wanted the job to be the right one. You know, but is that a good idea? Hey, Cayman Islands, glad you're listening. But you know what? The timing is sometimes off for things. You know, have you ever met somebody where you really had a strong connection, but the timing was off? A lot of that has to do with the fact that you are, everybody you've ever met, everybody that you ever know is what is on what's called your fractal line, which means you're not going to meet anybody in this lifetime that you haven't already met in another lifetime. So everybody that I talk to, I've met before, everybody that you talk to, so all of you who talk to me are on my fractal line, and I'm on your fractal line. So you're not going to bump into many other people than those people that you're supposed to bump into. Again, and timing. How do you figure out how much time? Do you figure it out because that's a head thing? Have a look and see how attached you are to the outcome of what it is that you want the timing answered. You know, if I find myself slipping that question in, I have to really step back and say, I may not get the answer I want, or I may get a convoluted answer that will just make me more upset. What about letting go of the timing piece and just asking, is this a correct direction for me? Not with the timing of how that's going to pan out, but is this a correct direction for me? Because you can get yes or no, you know, depending on whether you get swords or, well, and I'll go into this much more in the course about what type of card you get that would indicate a positive or a negative. Because really you want to listen to them because you want to stay away from them. You know, you want to stay away from negative situations. Okay, so 22 minutes, that's enough for me. If somebody has a question, Virginia, if you have a question, Dawn, if you have a question, anybody who's watching the call, if you have a question, you obviously have to be here live to get a question answered. But if you would like a question answered, please write it in the comment box and I will be happy to answer a question. Just let me go over the quick schedule. So I'm going to be doing this, what's today? Wednesday? So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, before my course starts on Tuesday. The Tarot 101 webinar 5-week series starts on November the 14th, 6 p.m. Arizona time, 8 p.m. Cayman, 8 p.m. East Coast, 5 p.m. California. I don't know when Central is actually, sorry about that. Okay, about that line. Is that something you read when you do a consultation? What line? About that line. Is that something you do when... Ooh, Dawn, I'm not really sure of the question about that line. The people... Oh, yeah. The people that are meant to meet line. Yes. Do I do that sometimes? Sometimes it comes up in a consultation. It depends. I mean, I never know what's going to come up in a consultation. Just like when you read your own cards, or if you read for other people, which we will be going over in the course as well, is how to become professional at doing this and you know, make an income, or at least make some extra money if you'd like. You don't have to give up your job if you don't want to. But I do talk about that more in depth. At certain times. It depends if people ask me. If I'm doing a lot of human design, if I'm doing a lot of Venus sequence work, I'm more likely to talk about the fractal lines. But you'll notice a lot of times if you look at somebody's chart, there's connections. You know, when I look at my chart with all the friends that I'm very, very close with, there's some kind of connection. So yeah, there are only certain people that you're supposed to meet, and that includes family members, friends, you know, co-workers. You've been with them all before. It's an opportunity to work out in this lifetime what needs to be worked out with them. So sometimes it's a positive work environment. Sometimes it's actually more often than not, most of you are in negative environments, I've discovered. And that's an opportunity for you. That's an opportunity for you to set boundaries. That's an opportunity for you to stand up and say no. That's an opportunity for you. So keep that in mind. Anyway, so yeah, 1 o'clock. Arizona time. Thursday, Friday, Sunday, and Monday. Saturday is going to be at 9 a.m. I'm sure Amika will be sending something out about that. It's going to be 9 a.m. because it is Veterans Day, but that's not the reason. It is my wedding anniversary, my 23rd wedding anniversary, and my husband and I go and see Murder on the Orient Express and go out to dinner. So I don't really want to be doing anything after 10 o'clock that day. So 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. Have no idea what I'll talk about. Have no idea what I'll talk about tomorrow. We'll just come up with a subject, and hopefully you will all join me. I would love for you to check out a 5-week tarot class to see if it's something that, you know, would be helpful. And it doesn't matter where you're at. If you've already got knowledge of tarot, you know, that's okay, because I'm working with people wherever they're at. You don't have to be a novice at this. It's for any level, because I will adjust what it is I'm doing to the level of the people. Let's have the, what poem? I have got lots of them on my wall, but I still think I'm going to go with the faith one. Okay. Edward Teller. When you come to the end of all the light you know, and it's time to step into the darkness of the unknown, faith is knowing that one of two things shall happen. Either you'll be given something solid to stand on, or you'll be taught how to fly. Namaste, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.